So welcome. This meeting is recorded.
Oh, hi, Marky. Were you?
I just muted everybody. You were saying something, Eric?
Oh, it told me you were trying to unmute me.
Oh, okay. Maybe I, without my glasses, I was pressing the wrong things. Okay. So before thinking, throughout thinking, is I, the spaciousness of awareness. Before any sensation, before any feeling, before any emotion. And throughout the sensation, the feeling, throughout the emotion, is I, formless, invisible, aware presence. Before any perception, between perceptions, and throughout any perception, is I, pure knowingness. borderless presence, spaciousness of being. Notice that before hearing these words, before hearing this, I am, I, the purity of presence, awareness, beingness. As a thought arises within this knowingness made out of the knowingness that knows it. There is no one or nothing standing apart. There are no edges, no demarcation lines between this or that. We say inhalation and exhalation. While in fact, it's just pure knowingness, pure beingness, indivisible. I am throughout, permeating experience. I am throughout and permeating, hearing these words. Not a form, not an object, not any particular thing, and yet undeniable. The presence of awareness the reality, the absoluteness of being, knowing. A thought may arise. I am this or that. I am feeling this or that. I need to do this or that. Without disturbing the I that knows it. Within everything that you experience, permeating your entire experience, in this moment, every moment, is that which does not come and go, that which is not subject to what you are experiencing. And you are that which is not subject to the content of your mind, that is not subject to any conditions. Notice the spaciousness of awareness. Invite every sensation, every thought to the transparency of awareness. Irrespective of what is the content of thought, what is the nature of thinking and feeling. From the perspective of I, the pure knowingness, from the perspective of awareness. There is just the peace of being, undisturbed, undisturbable. that does not recognize any division. Like within hearing these words, there are no divisions. Within the breath, the sensations of the body, there are no divisions. On this screen, there may be different shapes and colors, but the screen remains shapeless and colorless. And yet, the shapes and colors are not apart from the screen. But they do not divide the screen. They do not separate the screen. Although there may be many characters on the screen, although there may be different narratives at the level of the mind, the screen, I awareness remain whole and complete, formless, transparent presence, knowingness, beingness. Genderless, ageless, recognizing yourself. The self recognizing itself. I knows I. By the simple recognition that I is I. There is nowhere to go for I to know I, to be I am I am that which I am. Never, not. The thoughts and stories and feelings about me are way in which I sometimes appears. I sometimes seem to be. Me with my personal thoughts and personal impressions. Personal concerns. But upon looking at the nature of this personal I, this personal self, its reality, its nature, we come upon that which I am. The screen upon which all script is written. That is not a script. Within the waking dream realm, the human realm, there are principles, cause and effect. The interrelationships. That guide you selfish deeds that are meant to serve my personhood, my tribe, lead to conflict between tribes, lead to conflict between people. Thoughts and deeds that are disrespectful, that do not honor the other as yourself, lead to backlash. What we have served onto the other gets served back onto ourselves. Disrespecting, disregarding the friendly animal world that shares our dream. Results in an imbalance in the delicate relationship that exists between us. Our egoic tendencies that lead us to disregard. The beautiful earth, the streams, the rivers, the fresh air. Lead to desolation. And toxic life. In this waking dream, our actions have consequences. When you tend to the harvest, it will be bountiful. And when you disregard it, it will be sorrowful. The sooner we understand these principles, the principle of honor and respect, principles of fairness, of love, of compassion, of sympathy and empathy, principles of freedom, of generosity, giving. The sooner we understand these principles and we adopt them in our life, because what is the use of an understanding that you are not living? The less grit you will encounter in your life, and an availability to contemplate God's reality an availability to contemplate the realm that is beyond ego, beyond the personal self. Is more readily available to us. You can take advantage of every experience that you have as an opportunity to dive deeper and deeper into the source of your experience, into its formless reality, into the heart, the core of your experience, which is not realized via thinking, or via arranging the furniture in your life. What we are, we already are. We are that. We simply need to be that knowingly. It requires again and again, again and again, and again. This recognition, the return to the recognition that you already know that I am that, which is not an object, not a form, not something, and yet nothing is not myself. I am nowhere, no location, and yet I am everywhere. No, nowhere am I not located. I do not exist in time and space, and yet time and space, meaning thought and perception, are my intimacy. Nothing defines me, and yet nothing is defined outside of me. Nothing recognizes me but myself. I recognize everything, and yet I am not recognized by anything but myself. So if there are any questions, any comments. Vicky.
The beautiful meditation. But I also heard you speak about the screen in a different way that I thought about it before. I think of the screen in the sense of think of the movie. The phenomenal world is acting out. I'm the observer of all of this. But in a sense, I wonder now if the screen really is myself, as there is no other. The other is myself. So what you see on the screen, then you see the other. So then we talk like also perhaps the screen is myself as well. I mean, the world is in me. So from this way of looking at it, perhaps the movie and everything that's in the movie is actually myself. I don't know
Yes.
if that makes sense.
Yes. The metaphor of the screen and the images on the screen gives the impression that there are two, that in fact there are images that are separate from the screen, but in fact all there is the screen, and the images are made out of the screen. Imagine a screen that there isn't a projector. It's sort of, it projects within itself. A screen that is projecting within itself the images. So the images, as well as the screen, are one. There are no images outside of the screen. But the thing to understand is that in the screen there are many different characters, and even sometimes I am one of those characters in the story, in the narrative that is occurring within the screen, out of the screen. What's important to understand is that although the images come and go, they change. The screen is changeless. So the character that I am, the particular character that I am, that feels and perceives that I am this particular character, and another character that feels and perceives that they are a different character, in fact, they're not apart from the screen. They are the screen. They are their reality. Their reality. What they really are is the screen. In other words, when you go to touch the character, you're touching the screen, irrespective of what part of the story, what part of the narrative you're touching the screen. When you're perceiving a particular event on the screen, in fact, you're perceiving the screen. But it's the screen that is perceiving itself. It is the screen that is
its own isness.
Yeah, its own isness, but yet via the characters that are not apart from it. Staying with the screen, there are different perceptions. So from the perspective of a particular mind, there is a certain specific perception from the perspective of another mind, the perception is different. And yet, what the substance of these perceptions, the reality of these perceptions, is not a perception, is being presence, is the screen. So the screen is being presence, and the characters on the screen and all the narratives on the screen are thinking and feeling. Our experience is made out of thinking, perceiving and feeling, yes? We're sensing, we're perceiving, and we're feeling. So you could, another metaphor would be like an ocean, the ocean with different currents within the ocean. Consider that a current is a bundle of thoughts and feelings and perceptions. And there are so many currents in the ocean. All these currents that have different aspects to them, they're not apart from the ocean. It's the ocean that is currenting, it's the ocean that is via the gradients in temperature creates a current within itself, out of itself. Every character refers to themselves as I. And then we add on certain qualities to the I. We say I, the mother, I, the father, I, the engineer, I, whatever. We add qualifications to the I, but before the qualifications, we all refer to ourselves as I. We all refer to ourselves as I. So I is the screen. I is the ocean. I is not the current, not the specific qualities or qualifications of that are added on to the I, but I is the screen. And so our perceptions and our thoughts and our feelings and they refer to me as a person when I'm considering myself to be this particular body-mind. So from that perspective, from the perspective of the personal self, they are my thoughts, my meaning, they're this particular body-mind thoughts, feelings and sensations and perceptions. And that is that experience of the personal self remains on board, but it diminishes, it starts to sort of disassemble itself as we are contemplating, as we are inquiring into the nature of this personal self, its reality. And when we inquire into the reality of the character, we ask ourselves, well, what is this character in my direct experience? And when we turn our attention to our direct experience, which is always in this moment, we find that the character that is having those personal experiences is in itself these experiences. In other words, thinking, within thinking, there is, I am this character. In fact, we don't find an actual character that is thinking or that is perceiving or that is emoting. We only find thinking, the activity, the process of thinking, feeling, and perceiving. We do not find somebody who is navigating that. But what we will also find is the I that is knowing, thinking, feeling, and perceiving. Because thinking refers to the knowingness of thinking. Perceiving refers to the knowingness of perceiving. To I, their reality. So like in this moment, there is this conversation, but this conversation refers to the knowingness of it. The knowingness of it. And that which we refer to as I, which we call I. So it's in the very moment you're perceiving, you're sensing your feet on the ground, or you're perceiving this perception, or hearing these words. The hearing refers to whatever it is that is hearing it. And there is no object that is hearing. There is just the hearing, the reality of hearing.
So does that mean that when I act, essentially it's the knowing of that action? The other thing too is...
Let's just stay with this one.
Yeah.
So right now there is hearing. Yes. So then there is I act. You said, we talked about when I act. So now there may be a thought that arises, says, I am acting. I am the activity that I'm act come from activity. The activity that I'm engaged in right now is the activity of hearing. So I'm acting, hearing. My action right now is hearing. Because you asked, when I act, does it mean
the knowing?
The knowing of acting. So I want to stay with acting. What is it to act? Is there any such thing as acting, as action? That's what I want to look at before we go deeper into your question. So right now there is speaking, and there may be a thought that arises that I am speaking. Right? Let's say the thought I am speaking hasn't arisen yet. It's on its way. It's still on the train. It hasn't reached the station. Okay? The thought that I am speaking. And yet there is this unfolding, but the thought hasn't arisen yet. I am speaking. The question is, am I speaking? Let's say that the thought that there is speaking right now there is speaking. Let's say that this thought hasn't arisen yet. It is possible, right? That the thought, there is speaking going on right now. Because when I'm not perceiving this thought or the feeling, when I'm not perceiving a thought that says there is speaking right now, the question is there speaking?
It's so clear. It is so clear.
Mm-hmm.
If I speak, there is just speaking. I is out of it. There is no I. It is just the speaking. It is, it couldn't be more clear.
Okay.
If I think about speaking, I don't think I'm speaking. I'm just speaking some knowledge of speaking.
Let's stay with the simple question that I asked, which is, in the absence of the thought that there is speaking right now, in the complete absence of that thought, is there speaking? Okay, let's leave that question hanging, all right? In the absence of any activity, okay? In other words, there is no thought that's appearing. There's no perception, no sensation. In the absence of activity, in the absence of mind, do I disappear? Do I disappear? Interesting questions. Okay. Because when we're talking about, you think, when I act, you made a jump. When you say, I act, you're assuming that there is something doing an activity, somebody doing an activity. And we haven't arrived at that yet, because I haven't determined yet that there is somebody acting. When I look for somebody acting, when I look for somebody hearing or somebody speaking, I only find speaking.
Yeah.
I don't find somebody speaking. Right now, you're hearing these words. Is it your experience that there is somebody hearing these words, or is your experience just hearing? Your experience is just hearing. Yes, are you with me? Yes, your experience is just hearing. Now, before I asked you, hey, is your experience just hearing? Were you hearing? It's a trickier question. Some may say, yes, of course I was hearing. Yes, of course I was hearing. How do you know you were hearing? How do you know you were hearing? Because you went to memory, in order to say, yes, I was hearing, you had to go somewhere to check, right? Where did you go to check? You must have gone to some image, you must somewhere. You tell me where you. But you did not go to the fact of hearing. You probably went to some idea that, yes, of course I was hearing. Now, when I ask you, let's see, how would I put it? Are you aware? That directly is yes, yes? You're with me? That directly is yes. You don't need to wonder. That directly is yes, right? But when I ask you, are you hearing? It's a little trickier, isn't it? Am I hearing? It's a little trickier. Do you see a little bit what I'm saying, or not really? When you ask yourself, am I aware? Absolutely, because you can check it right away. But when I ask you, am I hearing? Ask yourself, am I hearing?
There's no I here.
It's a little trickier.
There's no I here.
It's a little trickier. So there are certain, this question, am I aware, is beyond any doubt. Beyond any doubt. There's absolute doubt, absolute absence of doubt. But am I hearing? Am I sitting? Am I feeling? Am I sensing? Why? Because I may be dreaming that I'm hearing. I may be dreaming that I'm thinking. But I cannot dream. Am I aware? Am I aware? Is absolutely. Yes, I am. Or am I? Yes, I am. So in terms of acting, when you say our action is consciousness aware of our action, or when there is action is also consciousness aware of action. There is a jump here. There is an assumption that there is action. But what may be helpful to look at is the following. This is sort of, is that there is nothing that is possible outside of awareness. So there are no images that are possible without the screen or outside of the screen. There are no currents that are possible outside of the ocean, without the ocean. There are no shadows that are possible, or no sunshine that's possible outside of the sun. Thinking of the shadow hitting the trees, but maybe there are no trees. There is no possible light without the sun. Right? That you can count on. Meaning what is absolute. Because reality has to be absolute, not like 99.9% or 99.99%. It has to be absolute. What we know absolutely. What we know absolutely is I am aware. I am aware that I am aware. And I am aware that I am. What is this I? I is I. I is I awareness. I aware beingness. That knows that I am, and that knows that I know. That knows that it knows. That you can take to the bank. That you can take to the bank. Is that the expression? You can take it to the bank. That you can bet on that. Bet on that. A sure winner. That's a sure winner. That the next thing is to wonder, ask yourself, well, so what are the, let's say, qualities, what is the nature of this I awareness? Which is a question that we can ask ourselves. Yes, I awareness. What is the qualities of I awareness? And what you will realize that awareness is neither here nor there. It's non-local. It is neither male or female. It is neither tall or short. It is neither more in the morning and less in the afternoon, or less in the afternoon, more in the morning. It's neither of that. It is not contained in any container. It has no form and no shape, no size, no qualifications, no qualities, no qualifications. And yet, it is the only reality, it is the one reality that I can bet on. And yet there is this form that is made out of awareness itself.
So the form is made out of awareness. But does it need form to know itself? Like,
does awareness needs form to know itself?
Like, without form, is it asleep?
Mm-hmm. Do you need your mom, your dad, your cousin, your neighbor, your father, your teacher, your dog, your car to know yourself?
No.
And yet you know your car, you know your mother, you know your father, you know your neighbor, you know but you do not know them to know yourself. So does consciousness needs to perceive in order to know itself? Does it need to think in order to know itself? Can consciousness, can you know yourself via thinking, or with thinking, or using thinking? Can you know yourself via perceiving, or via traveling, or via smelling, or hearing? Do you need to hear and perceive and taste in order to know yourself? Do you need to sense your legs, or sense your back, or sense the hunger, or sense your body, sense an itch, or sense your eyes, or sense the sensation of your tongue in your mouth? Do you need to sense any bodily sensation in order to know yourself? A sensation, any sensation of hunger needs awareness. Without awareness, the body does not know hunger. It's via awareness that there is, time to make a meal. It is via awareness that the thought, gee, it would be nice for me to, take a few days off from work. I've been working too hard the last 2 weeks. Let me take a couple of days off. It's via awareness that this thought is known and acted upon, or not. It is via awareness that we perceive a beautiful picture of Canada and decide to, it'd be nice to go visit Montreal or Quebec. The I awareness, meaning I knowingness. I know I am, yes? And I know that I know, yes? Do I know that I am knowing because I'm perceiving this perception? Or do I know that I'm knowing simply because I am knowing? I am made out of knowingness. My very substance, my very makeup is knowingness. Am I aware that I'm aware because I perceive the oak tree? Or am I aware that I am aware because I am made out of awareness? I'm my substance, my nature. I am made out of billions of particles, let's say, as a metaphor, of awareness. They're all saying, awareness, I'm awareness, I'm awareness, I'm awareness. And they're like a billion particles. It's part of the awareness, and they're landing everywhere. Well, it's a very poor metaphor, but and as they're landing, they're taken on the form of a tree. They just all get together and they get together. Say, let's make a tree, and they, the tree is made out of billions of particles of awareness. It's just a silly metaphor, but I'm playing with it. The I awareness is made out of awareness. Now, if you need it, if awareness, well, first let's see if we can agree that awareness is never not. In other words, it's uninterrupted. It is not awareness, bleep, not awareness, and then awareness, bleep, not. Would you agree with me? It's just awareness across the board, or is that a little tricky?
So wait, well, what if it goes to sleep?
All right. So let's say that awareness goes to sleep and there's a moment of non-awareness, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a simple question. What knows that? What knows that there is non-awareness? Huh? What would know that awareness has gone asleep?
Well, you wouldn't know that.
So you're talking about,
If awareness is asleep, it doesn't know it, right?
okay, so how can you speak of awareness going to sleep or being asleep or the absence of awareness without knowing it? It's like talking about, those blue long-nosed characters on the moon, that inhabit the moon. So yes, in your imagination, there could be, okay, well, yeah, awareness could not be. But in your experience, have you ever experienced the absence of awareness?
No, I guess my question is the I am like the waking up awareness?
Okay, well, if awareness is asleep, something would know that awareness is asleep. What would know that awareness is asleep? The awareness that is not asleep.
But what if you just wouldn't know?
Then if we don't know that awareness is asleep, then we're talking out of our, what's the expression? We're talking out of. We're talking out of. I don't know where we're talking out of. Through your hat. You're talking through your hat. Thank you, John.
You're not aware of not knowing awareness. So,
what is awareness being asleep, or what is awareness waking up, or what is, if you really look at that, you will find that in a way you're in fantasy land. In fact, there's never been any experience anywhere. There's no sense to waste much time on it and to go investigate. You're not going to find it. Anybody, anywhere that has any experience of the absence of awareness, the absence of I. There is a belief, which is a thought, an unsubstantiated thought, which is a belief that there is the end of I. But nobody has ever experienced the absence of I. We've experienced the absence of our leg when our leg got amputated, the absence of our mother when our mother passed, etc. But we've never experienced the absence of I. So let's backtrack. So let's start then with, there is no such thing, or let's agree. Maybe we need to look into it a little bit more, but up to now, let's come to that agreement. If there isn't a strong objection that awareness is there is no discontinuity in awareness. Awareness is. Yes. So then, second point to look at is that when we're speaking about awareness, we're speaking about reality. In other words, whenever you look at, am I aware? You will find yes. If you're sleeping and you ask yourself within your sleep, am I aware? The answer will be yes. If you are having dinner and you ask yourself, am I aware? The answer is yes. If you are driving, you ask yourself, am I aware? The answer is yes. If you're having a deep anger and you're like in the middle of a full blast negative emotion, and you ask yourself, am I aware? The answer is yes. So when we speak about awareness, we speak about reality, that which always is. It's never more or less. In other words, when you ask yourself, is there more awareness now than there was 5 minutes ago? The answer would be no. Is there more awareness now that I just moved, change position of how I'm sitting than before? The answer would be no. Or is there less awareness now than 5 minutes ago? You will find that no, there isn't more or less of awareness.
But can it reveal itself to itself without form?
Yes. So can it reveal itself to itself without form? So right now, we've determined that there isn't more or less of awareness. And that awareness is not a form. Yes, it's not red, blue, white, female, male, made out of steel or made out of wood, etc. It's not a form. And awareness means knowingness. Right? Means it's made out of knowing. Yes? So the question is, does knowing knows it knows? Does knowing know that it knows? Because if it knows that it knows, that means it knows itself. Because it's made out of knowing. Does knowing know knowing? Or is knowing, is awareness, knowing of knowing? Is knowing awareness, knowing of its knowingness? That's the question. Without having to drink a glass of wine, without having to travel to Canada. That's the question you're asking. Yes? Can awareness know itself without form, in the absence of form? Right?
Can it reveal itself to itself?
The reveal itself, meaning know itself. Reveal or know, just using another verb, it's know itself. Reveal, I know these glasses, I see these glasses, they're revealed to me, okay. Just a different verb, it's the same thing. Now, given that knowingness, awareness is made out of awareness, should answer your question. Look at that. Now, let's give you another hint. Between a perception A and between perception B, do you disappear? Let me put it another way. Do you continue to be between two perceptions? Between two perceptions, there are no perceptions. Between perception A and perception B, there are no perceptions, right?
Do I continue or does awareness?
Well, I awareness.
I awareness, okay, yes.
Yes. So I awareness continues to be. Whenever I say I, I'm always referring to what is real, because I'm not talking about Santa Claus grandchildren, Okay. So between perception and other perception, awareness continues. I am. Between a sensation and another sensation, between the sensation of hunger and the sensation of fulfillment of hunger, of no hunger, do I awareness cease to be? The answer is no, right? Yes? You agree? Between two sensations.
Of awareness.
Between two sensations, any bodily sensation, between two sensations,
Yeah.
do you cease to be? No. Although there are no sensations, now we've determined that in the absence of thought, you don't cease to be. In the absence of sensations, you don't cease to be. What about in the absence of perceptions, of two perceptions, perception A and perception B? Between perception A and perception B, do you cease to be?
Well, awareness is not going to cease.
I'm sorry?
Awareness will not cease.
Yeah, when I say I mean awareness.
Yeah.
So between perception A and perception B, do I awareness cease to be? No. So then open yourself to the possibility that if, or given that awareness does not cease to be between two thoughts, between two sensations, between two perceptions, that awareness is in the absence of thoughts, sensations, and perceptions. So if we've determined that absence is in the absence of world, body, mind, of thoughts, perceptions, and sensations, and we've established that awareness is made out of knowingness, its very nature is knowingness. Therefore, we have, if you combine these two together, then we've determined that awareness is self-knowing, knows itself, is made out of awareness in the absence of world, body, mind. And you can do the same exercise in the presence of world, body, mind. Of course, every object, every thought, every perception, every sensation exists, arises within awareness. You will find awareness. Awareness is before the world, body, mind, during the world, body, mind, and after the world, body, mind, which we refer to as the eternity of being, knowing, the eternity of aware presence. Aware presence is eternal. The I am aware, I is eternal. It's the eternity of presence, of beingness. That which dies is not the I. The flowers, the trees, the birds, the bodies, human bodies and animal bodies, etc. That which dies is not life, is not Satchitananda, is not the I. Forms are already dead. We mistakenly say this form is alive, this form is alive, there's life in the flower, there's life in the tree. No, there's only life in life.
So if it's manifest, it's dead.
All what's manifest is dead. And that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But what the I is not manifest. A thought of a beautiful castle in Spain, that is a manifestation. A feeling of anger or of whatever, that's a manifestation. Now, the fact that it's dead does not imply that it was once alive. To understand that, usually we refer to life and death. It says, oh, it was alive and now it's dead. No, I don't mean it that way. life has no opposite. There is, you know, I know that the Webster Dictionary would just fire me immediately. It would say, we'll never hire in this guy, because of course, life and death. There is life, but there is no death. Meaning life cannot die. That would be an oxymoron. It's impossible. It's not possible for life to die. God does not die.
Is that what it means when actually death is just a change of form? It's not death, it's just a change of form.
Yeah, you could say that. You could say that death is a change of form. And right now, for example, these very words have changed form. You know, just a minute ago, I was saying something a minute ago. Now I'm not saying what I was saying a minute ago. I'm saying something more. So, what is the name of that movie that the guy got, you know, kept on Groundhog Day? Groundhog Day. You know, Kate, when you look really closely at the phenomenal realm, you don't find anything in it that you could put your finger on. Because when you say, well, I'm putting my finger on these glasses, you know, here they are. But when you look closer, you ask yourself, where are these glasses? What are these glasses? When you look into what are these glasses, you're going to come upon thoughts, sensations, and perceptions. And when you go to thoughts, sensations, and perceptions to put your finger on them, you won't find anything to put your finger on. You will only find I awareness, I presence. This is why the search for the whole materialism, the whole principle of materialism, physicality is completely skewed. It's off the chart. It's off the tracks. It's off. It's off. It's off. It started with an assumption that it has not proven. It started with an assumption of an external reality. Our whole mentation is based, our whole mentation, perceptions, and sensations are deeply indoctrinated by the materialistic paradigm, but not our experience. So this is why the invitation is always to go to your experience, the verification, the going to your experience, checking your experience, using your experience as guide, not the belief systems. Thoughts do not know you. Only I am knowing. Knowingness does not belong to thought. Knowingness belongs to I. Therefore, I could not go to thoughts. I cannot go to sensations. I cannot go to perceptions to provide me with any information about I. Because knowingness is only one direction. I know the oak tree. The oak tree does not know I. Okay, well, online, hello, we ran out of time. Esther and Eric, thank you. Nice to see you, Shiva. Hello, Shiva, Zoe, Emmanuel, Steve, George, whoever else I'm missing. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Magdi.
Yes.
Thank you, Magdi.
Yeah. Oh, so, yes, Eric. I know there is a problem with hearing the questioners because we don't have a mic here. So, you know, I keep thinking about getting some form of mic to record, to pass it along so we can hear the question. I try sometimes to repeat the question, but many times I forget. So hopefully soon we will figure it out, Eric. Thank you, Eric. Good to see you. Okay. See you all. And the recording and the meet.